In yesterday's class, we had started with congestion control, right? We had discussed about certain congestion control techniques under the two headings: open loop congestion control and closed loop congestion control. Open loop congestion control, we had talked about these are the techniques which are there to prevent congestion, right? Congestion has not occurred, but if you follow these policies, then there is we can avoid congestion, right? Congestion, we also talked about what is it when you are trying to put the load on the network which is beyond its capacity. In that case, what will happen? Your delay will increase exponentially, and your throughput will also start reducing when your capacity of the network, your load is exceeding that capacity. Okay, so to prevent that congestion, we for the congestion control techniques, we have got prevention techniques and we have got some alleviation techniques, right? Open loop are the techniques which are there to prevent the congestion. Closed loop techniques are there. If a congestion has occurred, then how we can resolve it, right? So we had discussed about transmission window policy acknowledgement, how various protocols, if they are, some of them have better window policies and acknowledgement policies than others. Discarding policies was there, admission policy was there. Then closed loop, how we can inform the sender whether congestion has occurred, or we can inform the receiver that a congestion has occurred, and then the receiver can slow down its acknowledgement rate at which it is sending the acknowledgement, so that sender may know explicitly or implicitly where and that therein congestion has occurred. Right, so we have discussed these congestion control techniques. One of the techniques which we are going to discuss in detail is the congestion control, how it is handled in your transport layer, right? So the retransmission policy of your retransmission policy, which is followed in your TCP, right? It helps in prevention of your congestion, right? So we will be discussing this technique today. So mainly congestion control, how it is not in frame relay, we'll be talking about in your syllabus. It is only for your TCP, right? So in TCP, when we were discussing, we told about that there are two windows associated. We are not just concerned with the receiver window, but we're also concerned with the congestion window, right? Because in between routers which are there, they may have their queues or the buffers, right, which may also get overflowed, right? So we have to take the actual window size is the minimum of your receiver window size and your congestion window size. On in the general case, we assume that your congestion window size, your congestion window size is normally smaller than your receiver window size, because receiver is your end host, right? The end destination. So TCP congestion control policy, it works in three steps. Okay, first is your slow start phase, or also known as your exponential increase phase. The second is your congestion avoidance phase, which is where the policy which is adopted is your additive increase. And third is your congestion detection phase. All right, in congestion detection phase, it assumes that an congestion has occurred, right? In that case, how it is going to decrease, how it is going to do multiplicative decrease for preventing for that congestion to, to get resolved. All right, so how it is going to handle the cases. So your congestion, first is your slow start or your exponential growth. Second phase is your congestion avoidance or additive increase, in which additive increase is done. Then is your congestion detection, in which you start decreasing the size of your window, right? You have multiplicative decrease where your size of the window size is your sliding window protocol window size, how many packets you can send, right? Together, right? Just one after the other without waiting for an acknowledgement, right? All the packets which are there in the window, they can be readily sent, right? So the first phase, as I said, it is consisting of your three steps. First is your slow start phase, which has got your exponential increase, right? Second, it is followed by congestion avoidance. When you are exponentially increasing the size of the window, there is highly likely your congestion is going to occur. So we go into the congestion avoidance phase, right? When instead of increasing the window size exponentially, we go for additive increase, like +1. We keep on adding additive increase we do. And third is your, it is confirmed, it is not confirmed, but we can say congestion detection phase, that there is a possibility that a congestion has occurred. Two ways are there. One is your packet sent, timeout, your timer has expired, timeout is there, right? Which means confirm that there is a congestion where packet has not reached your destination. Second is your three acknowledgements. So if a data packet is sent and three acknowledgements are received for that particular data packet, which means that there is a possibility that there has been a congestion, right? So the congestion detection policy has got your, you have to decrease the size of the window. You have got your multiplicative decrease. Okay, you have to decrease the size of the window. And decreasing the size of the window is defined by two conditions. One is the timeout timer, the other one is your three acknowledgements case. Right, so we will be starting with the first phase of your congestion TCP, how it handles your congestion control policy. The first phase is your slow start phase or your exponential growth phase, right? So here what is happening, we start your congestion window size. Okay, your actual window size, as I said, it is the minimum of your congestion window size and receiver window size. We assume that your congestion window size is going to be considered, right? So we start with your congestion window size as one. Okay, the maximum segment size, right? And one MSS we start with, and we send one segment here, right? In round one, we send one segment. As the acknowledgement for your first segment has arrived, we are going to exponentially increase the size of the window here. After round one, the size of the window will become 2 to the power 1, which is equal to 2, right? So you send two packets here. You send data segment 2 and you get data segment 3, right? As the acknowledgement for data segment 2 arrives, right, we increase the size further 1, right? And as the acknowledgement for your third segment arrives, again, we increase the congestion window size by 1, right? So now if you see at the end of round 2, right here, at the end of your round 1, the congestion window size had become, right, the condition window size has become 2 to the power of 1, which is equal to 2. So you were able to send two segments. As the acknowledgement comes for these two segments, we are further increasing it by 1 MSS. So at the end of your round 2, this congestion window size has become 2 to the power of 2, which is equal to 4. So there is exponential increase at the end of each rounds, right? That means you can send four segments. So we send segment 4, its acknowledgement arrives. We again increase the size of the window by 1. You say segment 5, its acknowledgement arrives, we again increase the size of the window by 1. The segment 6 is sent, its acknowledgement arrives, you increase the segment size by 1. Now it has made up to 7. Now 7 segment, its acknowledgement has also arrived, right? Though the size of the window, increasing it by 1 MSS, has become at the end of the round 3, its size has become 2 to the power of 3, which is equal to 8, right? So it is exponentially increasing at the end of each round. We are increasing the size of the, we start with the basic, as I said, we start with the basic size of the congestion window as 1 MSS, right? The congestion window starts with 1 MSS. As the acknowledgement is arriving, we are exponentially, slowly we are increasing the window size, but it is growing exponentially. As the acknowledgement is rise, we are making it exponential growth, right? First round, 2 to the power of 0, only one segment, right? In round 1, we send this, its acknowledgement arrive. At the end of round 1, we are increasing the size to 2 to the power 1, which is equal to 2. Two segments can be sent. Its acknowledgement arrives, right? As acknowledgements are arriving, we are increasing the size of the window by 1 MSS, right? And at the, that means now 4, at the end of your round 2, 4, the window size has become 4, right? And then finally at the end of your round 3, right, 4 windows, that means 4 segments can be sent. As acknowledgements are arriving, we're increasing the size of the window, and finally at the end of round 3, you're able to you receive 8 you receive those 4 acknowledgements, and finally your window size is increased from 4 to 8, right? So there is exponential increase at the end of your round 3, right? And then after this, in your slow start phase, we have threshold, which is known as your SSS threshold, slow start phase threshold, right? You are increasing the size of the congestion window, right, exponentially, but once it reaches your, you define a congestion, you define a threshold, right? When the size of the window reaches that threshold, we start the slow start phase stops, okay, and then we start with the next phase. right? So in most implementation, this SSH is your slow start threshold is kept as 65535 bytes, right? And so once this window size increases to 65535 bytes, we start your slow start phase stops and we start with your next phase. What is the next phase? The second phase in your congestion control policy is your congestion avoidance, because we have rapidly increases, exponentially increases the window size. So now there is a possibility of a congestion. So we have to move into the congestion avoidance phase, where instead of the exponential growth of the of your window, we are only increasing the window size by one, right? Like here, what we are doing is your now you send your first segment, right? You set your first segment, right? You get the acknowledgement for it. Now the window size, the congestion window size has become 1 plus 1, that is equal to 2, right? This means you can send two segments here. You send this segment, you send segment 3, right? Now at the end of round 2, instead of growing it exponentially, at the end of the round we are just adding one, okay? One window size, one SSL, one MSS is being added, right? So at the end of round 2, now the window size has become your window size has become as 3, right? 2 plus 1 3. So here, when the whole window, right, instead of increasing the window for each and every acknowledgement, when that whole window acknowledgement has arrived, right, these two segments you have sent, when both the acknowledgements have arrived for these two segments, when the whole window acknowledgement arrives, then only we increase the your window size by 1 MSS, only one, okay? At the end of round 2, after sending these two segments, when your acknowledgement for the whole window segments or whole window segments has arrived, right? Similarly, now we can, this means we can send three segments are there in this window, we can send three of them, right? And as the acknowledgement for this complete window, right, all these three acknowledgements have arrived, again we increase the size of the window by one, right? We are not increasing it for every acknowledgement we receive, only when the whole window's acknowledgement has come, last acknowledgement has come, right? Here for segment 6, your acknowledgement 7 has come. Now your congestion window size has become 3 plus 1, that is 4. So here it is, after the end of each round, you're just additive increases there. You're just increasing it by 1. There it was exponential increase, where at the end of every round, you were, if I is the round number, right? You were increasing it by exponentially, 2 to the power of 0, 2 to the power of 1, 2 to the power of 2, 2 to the power of 3, that way. Here we're just simply adding one MSS at the end of each round. So this is your congestion avoidance phase, where you're not growing the window size exponentially, but you are increasing it by it by one. Right. The next phase starts where there is your congestion has been detected. Right. So in congestion detection, how your congestion can be detected? There are two ways in which your congestion is being detected. So as I said, in congestion avoidance phase, the size of the window is increasing additively until the next phase arises where your congestion is detected. How congestion is detected? There are two cases. What are the two cases? One is your timeout timer, right? Once your timer which you have started has expired, that is the case. There is a possibility, there is a not possibility, we would say that there is strong possibility that a congestion has occurred, right? Here we have to reduce the your congestion size, your congestion window size significantly, right? So TCP acts strongly in case of a timeout timer. And what do? We go back into the slow start phase, right? And in the slow start phase also, what we are going to do, the size of the threshold is reduced to half, right? And your congestion window slow start state means your congestion window size is equal to, starts from 1 MSS. All right. And the second is the case of three acknowledgements, where for a data packet sent, there are three acknowledgements received. In that case, there is a weaker possibility of a congestion, right? Still, your congestion window size has to be reduced, right? But still, you can say it is done in a safe manner, where instead of going into the slow start phase, we go into your congestion avoidance phase, where where you're again right? We were telling about the congestion detection phase. Two cases were there. One is your congestion detection by timeout timer, which is a case where there's a strong possibility of a congestion, right? In that case, what we do, we reduce the congestion window size to one segment, right? And the threshold becomes half of the current window size, right? And the second case is your where there's a possibility of a congestion, not a strong case, but possibly a congestion has occurred. That occurs when that is detected when three acknowledgements are received for a data packet. So in that case, we move towards your congestion avoidance phase, where again your threshold value is reduced to half of your current window size, and your your congestion window size is equal to the value of the threshold, right? And we move towards your congestion avoidance phase, right? So your TCP congestion control policy can be summarized by this diagram, where we start with the slow start phase. We increase your congestion window size exponentially here until it reaches your slow start phase threshold. Once it reaches the threshold value, what do we do? Right? There are if your we start moving towards your move towards your congestion avoidance phase, right? What happens in your congestion avoidance phase is instead of exponential increase, we have your additive increase, right? But in slow start phase or in congestion avoidance phase, if there is anywhere congestion detected where the three acknowledgements come, there also there is a possibility of congestion. Or if there is a timeout timer, there also there is a possibility, but here it is a strong possibility of a congestion. What do? We reduce the congestion, your congestion window size to 1 MSS and threshold value to half of the current window, right? If it is a case of three acknowledgements, and yes, and we also go back to your slow start phase, right? We go back to your slow start phase. In case your three acknowledgements case of congestion detection occurs, then what do? Here we move to your congestion avoidance phase. In congestion avoidance phase, again threshold value reduced to half of it, but your congestion value or your congestion window size is equal to your SSS threshold, right? And this is how your TCP congestion policy works, right? So let us take an example. So this is your slow start phase. We start with 1 MSS and we keep on increasing until we reach the threshold. मान के चलिए यहाँ पे हमारा threshold क्या है slow start phase का 16 है. So once it reaches 16, your congestion window size, we will be entering into your additive increase, right? In additive increase, what it is, we are just simply adding 1 to the size of the congestion window, right? Then in additive increase, you keep on increasing the size of the congestion window size by 1 until congestion is detected. How congestion is detected? Either it is a case of timeout timer or it is a case of three acknowledgement. In case of a timeout timer, what do we say? It is a strong possibility of a congestion. When it is a strong possibility of a congestion, what do? We go back to your congestion. Now this is your additive increase phase. If there is a timeout timer, we go back to your slow start phase. You go back to slow start phase where your congestion window size again reduces to 1, and the new threshold, the new SSL threshold is set to half of the current window size. What is the current window size? It is 20, half of it becomes 10, right? Next, what do? Again, in your slow start phase, there is exponential growth. We grow exponentially till we reach the threshold value. Once we reach the threshold value, we start going towards your additive increase. That is your congestion avoiding phase. Congestion avoidance phase, instead of exponential growth, we have your additive increase. We just keep on adding 1 to the size of your congestion window size, right? Then suppose we have a congestion detected. How? In the form of three acknowledgements, which is a case of weak possibility of a congestion. Weak possibility of a congestion means we have to move towards your congestion avoidance phase. That is your additive increase phase. In additive increase is, what do? The congestion window size, instead of going to 1 MSS, it becomes half of what it was current. What is current window size is 12. Half of it is 6. So we move, your congestion window size becomes 6, and we start moving towards your additive increase phase, right? Again, we start increasing additively, right? That is the congestion avoidance phase. So this is how your TCP congestion control policy works, right? Frame relay we do not need to do. The next topic which comes here is your quality of service, right? What is quality of service? Quality of service is, you can say, it is an it is an inter networking issue or not issue, we would say it is something which every network or every flow seeks to attain. You want to achieve a quality of service, right? Quality of service is defined, every network strives to provide you quality of service, right? It tries to right, it tries to achieve it, tries to seek it, right, tries to attain it, right? This quality of service can be defined by certain flow characteristics. What are those flow characteristics? Reliability, delay, jitter, bandwidth. Okay, whenever we are there are when we're talking about reliability, it means that if there is a packet lost, or there is this packet corrupted, we need to inform the sender that this packet has been lost, and in that case it will have to retransmit the packet. So maybe reliability may be important for certain kind of services such as your email, file transfer, right, which require reliability. And all the services which require reliability, right? So when data is has to reach your destination in a reliable, in a secure way, right? It has to reach there. If it is not reaching, you need to inform the sender. It has to be resent, right? So if your flow control, error control is needed, you have to take care of reliability. Okay, certain services may require the reliability. So the quality of service flow characteristics will be reliability. Certain quality of service may require minimum delays, right? It may not require reliability, it may require delays. These are your real-time applications. Supposing you're doing your telephony, audio conferencing, video conferencing, or remote login, there we have to see the delay has to be minimum. Maybe in that case your reliability is not so important, but your delays are more important, that you have to minimize the delays, right? In case of email services or your file transfer, delay may not be of that much of a priority, right? But for your real-time applications, delay is more important, so your flow characteristics is defined by delay. Then we come to third flow characteristics, which is jitter. What is jitter? Jitter is the variation in the delay for packets which are belonging to the same flow, which means that all the packets which are arriving at the destination, the delay should be consistent, right? It should not be, they should come at equal intervals, right? So that means if you are sending the data packets at time 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Then if they are reaching the destination, then if suppose the first packet takes 20 seconds, the next packet should take 21 seconds, so that the next packet should take 22 seconds. The third packet should take 23 seconds. Right? So here the first packet delay is how much? 20 seconds. So second packet is also 21 minus 1, that is 20 seconds. So has to be this 20 units of time has to remain same for the for all the packet sends, right? Its delay cannot vary. Like the first packet should not arrive at say 20 seconds, second packet is arrived at 23 seconds, then here the delay is inconsistent, right? So whenever you're sending the, we want with certain application require minimum jitter, right? Where the variation in the delays for the packets belong to the same flow should be minimized. That variation should not be there. Right? It should remain, the delay should remain the same. Like for example, your audio video calls. It should not be that certain voices reaching quickly. Maybe the next flow of next packet is arriving after more delay. So there is no consistency there. There is variations in the package being said. There are delays there. So we have to avoid that. Certain applications try to attain, they try to avoid such jitters in your application, right, in your services, right? And then there comes bandwidth. Bandwidth means that certain applications require more bandwidth, some require less bandwidth. For example, video conferencing may require more bits to be sent, colored screen may require more bits, right? Email, which may consist of just text data, may require less bandwidth. So there are these four characteristics which define your quality of service, which every network, which every flow tries to achieve. Okay. So to attain these quality of services, to provide, although I won't say attain, but to improve the quality of service provided, right? We've got certain techniques, right? The first techniques is your scheduling, right? Where the packets which are arriving from different flows, when they reach your switch or a router for processing, right? They are all of them should be treated in a fair manner, right? And how is it possible? With the help of queues, right? All these routers, they're going to maintain queues, right? When the data packets are coming, they are placed inside this queue and they are one by one departed by this router, right? So this router must be having some processor which will be taking out these packets from this particular queue. So, right, at the time of arrival, it is going to check if the queue is empty, this packet will be added to the queue, otherwise it is going to get discarded, right? The simplest of the scheduling techniques is your FIFO queuing. FIFO is first in, first out, right? As the first packet which comes is going to be sent first, last packet which arrives will be sent last because it is based on your first in, first out queue, right? But sometimes people way of queuing may not work because there are certain packets which are of higher priority which need to be processed earlier, right? There will be certain packets which are of lower priority. Those have to be processed later, right? So we can, instead of having a single queue consisting of your first in, first out, we can have two queues here, which are based on FIFO technique, where your higher priority packets will be placed in the higher priority queue, then lower priority packets will be placed in the lower priority queue. And first, your processor will be handling the packets which have higher priority, right? So there is a switch which can be switched from higher priority queue to lower priority queue, right? When your higher priority, all the packets are processed, then your lower priority queue packets are going to be checked. But here what is, and you have to classify the arrival at the time of arrival, you have to decide whether it will be put in your higher priority queue or on your lower priority queue. But the issue coming here is that this will lead to starvation. All right. What is starvation? Right here, what is happening? It will lead to starvation, where always the higher priority queue are going to be processed first, and then there is a possibility that the lower priority queue packets may never get processed. So there is an option of weighted queue, where certain weights are assigned to each of the queues, where higher priority is given a higher weight, lower priority is given a lower weight. But from these queues, we take out the packets in a round robin way, right? We use the round robin scheduling fashion for taking out the packets from each of these queues, right? So if the weights are assigned like 3 to 1, so maybe from the first queue, 3 packets will be processed, right? Then after these 2 packets are processed, and from the second queue, 2 packets will be processed. Then from the third queue, only 1 packet will be processed, right? So in this way, there is no queue which is going to face starvation, but at the same time, higher priority queues will be given more weightage, which means more packets from them will be processed first. So this is another weighted fair queuing technique. Okay, then next quality of service improvement technique is based on your traffic shaping. Okay, this leaky bucket which we are discussing and token link which we'll be talking about is based on traffic shaping. Okay, what is traffic shaping? Traffic shaping means that we need to control the amount and the rate at which your traffic is being sent to the network. Okay, the how much amount and as well as the rate at which it is being sent. Right, it has to be consistency there. There, as I said, busty traffic is not considered to be. It is not something. It is not considered to be good. Right, it is the rate has to remain constant, right? The output rate remains constant, then it is considered to be busty data packets. Busty data is not considered to be a good traffic shaping technique, right? In good traffic shaping technique, we want that the rate at which a data packet is being sent through a traffic through your network, that should be the output rate should be constant, right? Your output rate should be constant. Okay, so to achieve that consistency in the traffic being sent to the network, right? Your data packet should be going in a consistent way. So we were talking about traffic shaping, where we require that the amount of data which we are sending, the amount of traffic which we are sending, it should be sent in a controlled way, where the output rate should be constant, right? How it can be achieved? We've got two techniques. One is your leaky bucket, the other one is your token bucket. What is happening in leaky bucket? We assume that whatever data is coming, whatever data, this data can be a bursty data, right? Like for certain time periods, you have got a high, you've got peak traffic. For certain times you have got no data to be sent. For certain periods you may have a middle value, medieval rate of data to be sent, right? So this is very bursty data is not we prefer, right? So what we do, we consider that the data flow which is coming from your which has been put in the network, right, which has been placed in network, it goes out in a at a constant output rate. How this is achieved? The busty chunks of data, these bursts of data, they are placed inside, you can assume they're placed inside a bucket. And from these bucket, at a constant rate, at a fixed flow, your data is going to be sent in the network, right? At a fixed rate, it will be placed in the network, so that it is the average rate is achieved over a certain time period. How it is done? Say simple, if you see here, it is a busty data where 12 Mbps bandwidth is being utilized for a time period of 2 seconds, right? So that means how much data we are sending? We are sending 12 into 2, which is equal to 24 bits for this time period, 2 seconds, right? Then there is absolutely no data transfer. Then between 7 to 10, we have 2 Mbps, which means 2 into 3, which is equal to 6 bits, right? So total of 30 bits are being sent over the time period of 10 seconds, right? So this is busty data. How we can convert it into a fixed range data is that we collect this burst or chunks of data in a bucket, assuming it is actually done with the help of a queue, but assuming it is a bucket, and from this at a consistent rate, you will be sending the output. You'll be placing the traffic on the network at a constant output rate, right? So here 30 Mbps can be, sorry, 30 bits can be sent over a time period of 10 seconds. If you do, then the constant output rate will be 3 Mbps. So this is what is we are trying to achieve, right? To burst out, to smooth out your busty data, right? So how this is implemented, leaky bucket, this can be implemented with the help of a queue, right? What do? We have, as the data packets are arriving, we place it inside the queue, and we define a counter, right? We define a counter which is equal to say n, right? And every time we are removing a packet from this queue, we are going to decrease, say packet size is P1. We are going to reduce this size of counter by P1, right? So if your n is greater than P size of the packet which is being removed from the queue, we simply decrement the counter by the packet size, right? Like if the packet size is P1, we are going to reduce the size of the packet by, we are going to reduce the size of the counter by n minus P1, right? And we keep on removing. Say suppose the second data packet size is P2. Now if P2 is less than n minus P1, first packet we removed is P1, size P1, right? Now the size of the counter has become n minus P1. Still the second packet size is less than n minus P1, so we are going to remove this packet also and further reduce the size of the counter from n minus P1 minus P2, right? We keep on reducing, decrementing the size of the counter by the packet size, right? Until your n becomes smaller than the packet size, right? When CP3 comes, right? N minus P1 minus P2, this becomes less than size of the P3, then again we will wait for the we will reset the counter. We will reset the counter as n and wait for the next tick of the clock, right? For the next tick of clock, again we will be setting it to the, we will be reinitializing the counter to n, and then we will be starting sending the data packets. To some way, to some extent, we are achieving a constant rate of n, right? If the value at each tick of a clock, at each tick of a clock, maximum, what is the size of the data which we can send is n. As soon as your n becomes lesser than the size of the data packet, what we are going to do? We are going to reinitialize it, right? We are going to reset the counter and initialize it at the next tick of the clock. So again, in the next tick of clock, you will be sending next n data size, right? So we are achieving a constant output flow rate with the help of the leaky bucket implementation. There is one drawback of leaky bucket. What is the drawback? That it is very restrictive in the sense, it like even if you don't have any data packet to send, you're just controlling it with the help of a clock, right? It might be possible that your host is not sending the data packet for a long while, right? So its bucket is becoming empty, but all of a sudden again it has got bursty data to send, so it will not consider your it will not consider your this time of idleness, right? For certain period it is not sending any data, right? This period of idleness should be accumulated for future, right? Because certain time it is not sending any data, so that should be taken into account, right? So to overcome this restrictiveness of leaky bucket, right, where it does not consider the time period whether the host is sitting idle, right? It is its buckets, it's empty, and next when it has got burst of data, still it is depending upon the counter, right? So to overcome this drawback, we've got another implementation, which is your token bucket. Your token bucket, very simple, where at every tick of clock, you add one token to it. If you don't have any data to send, you keep on adding a token to it, right? And whenever you have to send your data, you will be taking out a token from this bucket, right? So in this case, if the host is sitting idle for a certain period of time, it can collect these tokens, right? For example, if you say n is equal to 100, right, for one, and it is sitting for this counter n is equal to 100, and it is sitting idle for 100 ticks, right? 100 ticks of clock. So in that case, it will be able to collect around 100 into 100 tokens, right? So it will be able to send these many packets. So here, instead of well, it is also considering the idle time when it is sitting idle, when it has nothing to send, so it can keep on collecting this token at the tick of the clock, and when it has to send the data, it will be taking out a token from this bucket, and this token is going to keep a count of how many data packets it is transmitting, right? It is processing. So this is what quality of service traffic shaping two techniques are there: leaky bucket and token bucket, right? And then you have the scheduling techniques and all, right, for fair scheduling of the data packets as they are arrived. So this is all there in your congestion control and quality of service for TCP. For switch network integrated service, we do not need to consider. So that is all. In your transport layer, we discussed about TCP protocol, UDP protocol, SCTP protocol. Then we discuss about your what is congestion, what are the congestion control techniques of open loop and closed loop. In open loop, we had got a trunk retransmission policy. If it is implemented in the right way, then it can avoid congestion, right? For that, we had studied in detail about it. TCP, congestion control policy, how it is working in two phases. Then there is quality of service, which has to be, which every network tries to attain, right? And defined by your four parameters or flow characteristics, which are your reliability, bandwidth, jitter, delay, right? And to improve this quality of services, we have got certain techniques, which are those. So first one is your queuing technique, where every packet has got a and it is being every, like, every packet, every flow is being considered in a flow in a fair and appropriate manner when it is being processed by the switch or router, right? So we had your queuing techniques for scheduling, right? The scheduling techniques are helping in improving a quality of service. Then we have got the traffic shaping techniques, for which you have to control the amount of data and the rate at which the data is being sent to the network, for which we have got your two ways, which is the leaky bucket and open ring. And your other two techniques for improving your quality of service is your resource reservation and admission control, right? Certain resources such as buffer, memory, CPU, time, and so on, right? These need to be reserved beforehand for improving the quality of service. Then you have got your admission control ways, which mechanism used by router or switch to see whether it should accept or reject a flow based on certain predefined parameters. Right? You've got your flow specifications for that, right? And it has to, based on this previous commitments, it can handle the flow. So this is all about your quality of service. We'll end the class, and from tomorrow we will be trying to complete in tomorrow or maybe a day or two. We'll be completing the services of your application, the